Is running for Upper Adams County School Board. He's a great patriot, a good statesman. He's written a number of pieces for the American Thinker, which is a very prestigious journal for conservative thought. And he's one of the rising stars, and he's going to be good for the future. Please help me welcome Jason McNew.
How are you? Thanks for coming out. My name's Jason McNew. I have 4 little ones sitting right up here up front. So that's why I'm here and that's why I'm doing this. Given a forthright chronicle of man's history, both ancient and modern, we must somberly recognize that human liberty has been the exception and not the norm. Often, governments have ruled over the people by fear, and nations have lived under tyranny. Today, millions of people still live under cruel regimes which deny the people their basic natural rights. In 1961, British historian Arnold Toynbee completed his epic work, A Study of History, a 12-volume colossus which spans 6,000 pages. Mr. Toynbee found that through the annals of human history, there have been some 21 to 23 advanced civilizations, 16 of which have run their course and crumbled, consumed by history. We might reason, and Toynbee himself said, human affairs do not become intelligible until they are seen as whole. We would be wise to study the works of men like Mr. Toynbee, so that we too might attain a more complete perspective on our affairs. John Adams advised, we ought to consider what is the end of government before we determine which is the best form. He goes on to say, nothing is more certain from the history of nations and the nature of man that some forms of government are better suited than others. Adams concludes, the form of government which communicates happiness to the greatest number of persons and in the greatest degree is best. Only a fool or a tyrant could disagree. Through his words and actions, John Adams demonstrated that our politicians can and must be statesmen. Our founding fathers showed us what we should demand. A statesman is a tireless student of history, philosophy, politics, religion, and war. A tradesman, a writer, and a thinker. Statesmen must possess the moral courage and presence of mind to recognize and call out the fundamental distinction between good and evil. Statesmen must submit to the rule of law, but tear down the rule of men. The statesman will face his faults. In our halls of governance, men and women such as this are too few, except for Sam Rohr. We need you down in D.C., sir. We may hold our ideas dear, but we may not hold them blindly. It is simply not good enough to pose at the lectern and exclaim one's belief in small government or belief in low taxes. We cannot be serious when we spew hollow and exhausted platitudes to deafening applause. We cannot be serious when we entertain politicians who promise the people benefits funded out of the public treasury in exchange for their votes. A statesman must be able to make plain, in slight but elegant terms, why it is that emphasis on the individual and de-emphasis of government will in fact lead to the greatest happiness for the greatest number of persons and in the greatest degree. This old idea is known as classical liberalism. Liberal civil and economic freedoms and reliance on the self. Today, we call these notions conservatism or libertarianism. Classical liberalism is why the Tea Party exists. It is our cause. As democracy is a contrivance of men, it is a reflection of his flaws. Indeed, mankind's greatest flaw lies in his natural inclination to increase and then abuse his own power. This immutable fact however obnoxious it is, must always be answered to before an effective and safe government can be erected and maintained. Our founding fathers sought to blunt men's ambitions through the erection of rigorous checks and balances. But when the goal becomes for the state to fulfill every human need, these checks and balances become an impediment, resulting in injudicious politicians trying to evade them. No matter the motive, attempts which have been made in the past to impose fairness and equal outcomes have instead yielded terrible human suffering. No government, however shrewdly crafted, can save everyone from everything. It is our unique system of government, laid upon Judaic-Christian principles, which allowed America to become a great, kind, and generous nation. If we allow these principles to slip away and abandon their timeless reason, history will consume us. The Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights are known conjointly as the Charters of Freedom. These charters are the finest political treatise ever laid by the hands of men. Men that, while imperfect, were made of a moral and intellectual sum which the human race cultivates perhaps a few times in 10 centuries. And they're sure as heck nowhere to be found now. America's exceptional because she still stands as an earthly bellwether of human liberty and human dignity. As she is ascended, so too has the whole of the human condition. This is not a coincidence. Somebody once said that America is less of a place and more of an idea. Our founders knew that their ideas would not only lay the foundations for liberty in America, but that those same ideas could someday inspire designs that might convey liberty to every living soul on this earth. Liberty is not a station in time that we arrive at or something that we achieve. Liberty is an endless journey, a sacred cause that we engage at inestimable cost. We must never forget these costs, or that liberty demands our eternal vigilance, so that we may secure her blessings for ourselves and for our children. Save for life itself, there is no blessing, no human right more precious than liberty, and it must never be taken for granted. We are the American Tea Party. We stand for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We will not divide other human beings into groups, proclaim their victimhood, and cynically anoint ourselves or the government as the lone path to their dreams. Our philosophy is simpler and better. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We value diligence, humility, patience, and charity. The Tea Party stands for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all of God's children in every quarter of the earth and all of the time. Thank you. As I said, I'm Jason McNew. I'm running for the school board in Upper Adams County against four incumbents and myself. And I'd like to take a minute to talk about education here, if that's okay with everybody. I talked about in this speech about classical liberalism. This was the political ideology of Thomas Jefferson. If you asked him what his political ideology is, he would have said he was liberal. But that means liberal civil and economic freedoms, which means you get left alone. It doesn't mean social liberalism like it does now. Our schools are a wreck. Worldwide, the United States, we're 30th in math, 23rd in science. In the United States, Pennsylvania ranks 42nd out of the country, and Adams County is somewhere mid-pack and all of that. This is in spite of a fourfold increase in spending on education in the last 50 years. These are the ugly, obnoxious facts. And this is something that we as parents have to take to the school boards, and they have to answer to them. Who here has children in the local schools? we need to be attending the school board meetings. When I go, there's nobody there. The school board is being run by foxes.
No.
Now, I talked about classical liberalism in my speech here, and I'm going to read a little bit about that. This is a paper by John C. Goodman. He's the CEO of the National Center for Policy Analysis. Now, as I said on the speech, emphasis on the individual and de-emphasis on government leads to the greatest human happiness. That's probably true. The reason for that: certain rights are vital because they create the conditions under which happiness or the general state of welfare is maximized. And because most individuals are the best judge of their own needs, wants, and desires, the sum of individual and cumulatively social welfare is likely to be maximized when people are free to make their own decisions rather than have those decisions made by someone else. This is what the Founding Fathers believed. The people in Washington, D.C., they don't believe this. They talk about, what was the verbiage that President Obama used, perfecting the human condition. That's absurd. That can't be done. Thus, in order to secure human happiness and well-being, it is necessary to create a spirit of personal autonomy within each individual's personal judgment concerning what he or she wishes to do is paramount and cannot be legitimately interfered with by either government or individual for that person's own good. Now, classical liberalism. My school board has posted something. This is something that's in use across the country. It's called constructivist learning theory and higher order thinking. Has anybody here ever heard of it? It's ivory tower gobbledygook. I read my school district's strategic plan. It's 117 pages. 117 pages. They take an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. That document does not mention America, Americans, or the Constitution once. It mentions global economy and all this other stuff, and constructivist learning. Now, what's constructivist learning? I did some research on my own, and then I went to the school board and asked them, what is constructivist learning? I want you to provide me with what constructivist learning is, okay? The guy who created the framework for constructivist learning was named Lev Vygotsky. He was a Soviet psychologist. He came up with this garbage in the 1930s. Constructivist learning was construed literally as the antithesis of classical liberalism, and it was adopted by our educational institutions. This is in use across the entire nation. Vygotsky had theorized that by teaching children a certain way, you can alter the physical development of the brain in such a way as to alter physical development of the brain. And the thinking was to suppress individual tendencies in the kids. My district plan mentions this 6 times in my own plan, and the school board thinks this is okay. Well, it's not okay. This kind of insanity is going on in every single school district in this country, including yours. So it is incumbent on all of you, please, I implore you to go. It's an off year for elections. We can come to this Tea Party stuff, but if you want to do one little thing to make a difference, go to your school board meetings, get a hold of their policies, see what it is that they're doing. We've got to get this education under control. American education is a failure, and dumping more money on it is not going to fix it, okay? And if the bureaucrats and the politicians aren't going to fix it, it's up to us as citizens. If anybody wants to see a little bit more information about classical liberalism or this constructivist thinking, I have 2 papers here which I'd be happy to let anybody look at. And thank you.